In today's video, we'll look closely at some of the GMC Terrain's most common issues. It is a mid-size crossover SUV, and if the vehicle's marketing ads are to be believed, it is a maneuverable SUV with livable fuel economy and a variety of optional upgrades. The GMC Terrain has a lifespan of more than 200,000 miles, but the vehicle has some significant problems. Let's examine the issues in greater detail. But before we start, please make sure you've subscribed to the channel. Defective electronic park lock lever. The GMC Terrain is not an exception to the numerous powertrain issues that GM has experienced across its entire lineup. The electronic park lock lever was faulty, as it had been with a number of other models in the lineup. With potentially disastrous results, GM service departments reported that various Terrain SUV models from 2013 to 2018 had been repaired using the exact defective electronic park lock lever replacement. The vehicle failed to meet the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards as a result of the malfunctioning electronic park lock lever, which allowed the driver to remove the ignition key while the car was not in park. Due to the increased risk of vehicle rollaway, passengers and other road users may have been injured. Dealers agreed to inspect and replace the key cylinder lock housing as part of a recall that GM issued. Missing bolts. The issue of missing bolts seems to be comparatively minor for a car manufacturer. Borg-Warner accumulators used in GM's start-stop transmission system were installed in recalled vehicles. On the supplied units installed in the Terrain 2018 to 2020 models, 2 bolts were absent. For the GMC, a transmission oil leak caused by the stop-start accumulator and caps missing bolts is a major issue. To keep your vehicle from being damaged, this fault would need to be fixed. If the transmission oil leaks onto the hot exhaust or engine, the risk of a fire is increased, which only serves to make matters worse. In October 2020, GM issued a recall, instructing dealers to inspect and replace the faulty stop-start accumulator and cap. Coating on rear brake caliper pistons. A brake failure-related recall should be noted by any potential owners. The importance of being able to brake safely cannot be overstated, and neither can the risk to other road users like drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians. In 2018, GM issued a safety recall that could have affected more than 210,000 vehicles, including the Terrain SUV from 2018 to 2019. The issue is an inadequate coating on the rear brake caliper pistons, which is required to stop an unfavorable chemical reaction between the caliper piston material and brake fluid. This raises the possibility of hydrogen gas pockets forming in the brakes, which would decrease the effectiveness of hydraulic fluid in brake systems and lead to decreased braking ability or spongy brakes. The .3 brake fluid that was approved by GM as part of this recall was replaced with the .4 brake fluid. This serious safety issue should discourage prospective buyers from considering the Terrain SUV for model years 2018 to 2019. Fuel pump flange weld fracture. We are once more examining the 2018 Terrain SUV, and this time the high-pressure fuel pump is the main topic of discussion. GM discovered that the high-pressure fuel pump's outer housing and flange were joined improperly at the time of manufacture, resulting in a joint that cracked and separated over time. Due to this potential movement of the fuel pump inside the engine compartment, the fuel line was damaged, fuel leaked, and the risk of an engine fire was raised. The engine compartment's high-pressure fuel pump delivers fuel to the fuel rail and then to the fuel injection system. Simply put, if this fuel pump breaks down, your car will not function. However, a GM recall allowed for the high-pressure fuel pump and fuel lines to be replaced, which fixed the issue. Headlight reflection. Regarding the Terrain SUV, which was recalled from 2010 to 2017, we still have one recall to discuss. GM is still working on a fix for the issue where the headlamp housing unit's excessively bright reflection shines a bright light above the vehicle. This indicates that the car doesn't meet the requirements of the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards. This excessively bright glare raised the risk of an accident by potentially blinding oncoming drivers, which is why it was recalled. Airbag failure. In 2015, the initial recall was announced. The front-side Takata airbags in the 2015 Terrain SUV allegedly developed a defect that increased the risk of metal shards being blown around the interior of the vehicle, increasing the risk of injury. A later model of the Terrain SUV from 2018 had an airbag sensing diagnostic module that failed to shut down properly when the car was turned off and restarted. The possibility of harm or death was increased by this failure. GM promised to replace the defective inflator and reprogram the SDM in order to address both issues for free to the owners of the over 88,800 affected vehicles. But given that the NHTSA continues to receive numerous airbag complaints, airbag failure should be a concern when considering the Terrain. Driveshaft fracture. While you're driving, a damaged right front intermediate drive shaft assembly could separate, cutting off power to the right front wheel and impairing your ability to control your car safely. The second, potentially more serious safety concern is a rotating loose shaft that could injure passengers or other vehicles on the road. The rotating shaft, to put it simply, has the potential to break while you're driving with a load, fly out from under your car, and turn into a flailing whip. In order to inspect and replace the defective right front intermediate drive shaft assembly, GMC issued a recall in 2017. A restriction that prohibits the delivery of any new or used vehicles involved in this recall before they have been inspected and the problematic assembly has been replaced has been added. Tire tread separation. While recalls remove defective tires, the risk of potential injury still exists. Tires can be one of your car's most important safety-related components. Due to an issue with Hankook tires that were installed at the factory, GM has started to recall the 2021 and 2022 Terrain vehicles. At high speeds, drivers have reported experiencing tread separation or delamination. Simply put, the inner and outer layers of the tread are separating as it tears itself apart. Not what you want to be happening while driving fast. Hankook Tire America Corporation claims that this is the result of a manufacturing error where not enough curing agent was used during the manufacturing process. Dealers checked the dot number and barcode information on all original factory-fitted tires as part of the recall, which got underway in 2021. Although the dealers replaced the tires with ones bearing the dot number 521, there is still a safety concern for people who might buy a 2021 to 2022 Terrain SUV. Windshield wiper failure. In any moving vehicle, visibility is a major concern, and the consequences of poor visibility cannot be understated. This should be taken into account when buying any new or used car, not just those potentially subject to the 681,509 GM vehicle recall. Because the ball joint of the windscreen wiper was corroding, GM issued a recall for the Terrain SUV from 2014 to 2015. By installing a better windshield wiper assembly, the corrosion in the ball joints of the windshield wiper assembly that was brought on by water and debris entering the joints was resolved. The excessive wear and eventual detachment of the ball joint were successfully fixed by the 2013 recall. It is alarming that the Terrain SUV from 2014 to 2015 has since been recalled for the same issue. Before making any purchases, a prospective owner ought to think about this. Insufficient weld on head restraints. This is the third recall involving the 2019 Terrain SUV all-wheel drive, so any prospective owner should be motivated to learn more about the problems with this particular design. Because the head restraint bracket on the rear right head restraint was improperly welded, GM issued a recall in 2019. Although only 120 vehicles were affected, these minor annoyances should not be disregarded. The head restraint could detach during a collision or high-speed, abrupt braking, injuring passengers with whiplash or head injuries. So, that were the most common and serious GMC Terrain issues and recalls. Hope the information was useful for you.